What's up, Matt?
What's up, dude?
How we doing?
Good, man. How are things?
Good. An episode that we debated not even doing because it's so subjective, but I want to talk about nutrition.
This is Couch to 50K. How to finish your first ultra marathon.
To be clear, not talking about fueling, not talking about what we're doing in training during the race, but what we're eating outside of that, just day to day, trying to be healthy, right? So hundreds of different schools of thought, I'm sure, just like general nutrition for life. But we can talk a little bit specifically about how it applies to fitness and endurance. In general, I think, healthy wins. I think that's pretty obvious, right? We here in the United States have lots of processed foods, and, it tends to be like the cheaper and easier it is, the worse it is for you, unfortunately.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Which I think is, leads to a lot of problems that we see. But, so if we wanted to talk about a couple of the more popular styles of nutrition, I guess might be one way to think about it. There's a keto contingent. I see a lot of vegan, vegetarian ultra runners, and I don't know. What do you think? What's worked for you? Give me a personal story, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I've done keto. Keto's worked well for me before in the past. I've done things that haven't worked well for me in the past. Again, I think you nailed it when you talked about being healthy. It's almost why we talked about not doing this, because it's kind of obvious that, the healthier you are, whether you're of the keto school or vegan, vegetarian, just in general, eating a healthy diet is going to serve you well in life, also in running. There's definitely going to be some, very heated debates on the ideas that like keto, which, so for people not in the know, keto, what the premise is that if you cut carbohydrates out of your diet, and you focus on high fat and protein, that your body will enter a state of ketosis where it is producing ketones that you are using for energy, as opposed to burning your glycogen storage, your sugars. Now, whether or not that is a good thing is like kind of the debate, right? I can tell you from my personal experience, I found that cutting carbohydrates out really leveled out my energy.
Sure.
So I really wasn't spiking in the day, like in accordance with the foods that I was eating. It wasn't like my energy was related at all to what I was eating. It was like I woke up and I had the same energy all day long. And then I went to bed. And granted, like I didn't quite feel like I had the like the high octane level of energy, like the peak,
right.
But I also didn't have the lows.
Yep.
Right. I didn't have the like afternoon nap need. And then in terms of running, like the way it made me felt, or the way it made me feel running, was like I could run forever. It was crazy. Like it was really like, without eating a lot of food, I could really like burn a slow, consistent energy like all day, which was really cool. Now, like the downside was like, it was super challenging, like very, very challenging, a huge commitment to overhaul your whole diet. It is like borderline psychopathic, like in terms of like, you want to go out to eat, and everybody, like there's carbs in everything, like especially when you go to a restaurant. It's like, oh, you can't have salad dressing, you can't have any sides, you can't put any of the sauce on the meat, like there's just, it's so restrictive. And in order to like make that diet work for you at home, you're spending an enormous amount of time preparing food. It's like you know, it's, so you become like a chef, you know, you're trying to like make meals with like, oh, how many avocados can I eat, you know?
Right.
And like, granted, the food is good. It's delicious food. You're eating a lot of meat, a lot of nuts, a lot of like dairy stuff. But it is time consuming, and it does require like a little bit of a life change. It's like you really got to want to do that. And that's probably what it's like. I've never done vegan, vegetarian, but that's probably the same thing, right? You're like restricting this whole other, you know, you're like all these other foods, like everything becomes like a choice. It's like constant, like, constant, like having to choose the right thing. And you know, that's a challenge. That's a major challenge. Overhauling your diet in any way, is a challenge. But you know, I mean, I know people that just eat fruit and they run really, really far a lot and they only eat fruit. So, you know, it's a personal, it really is, you know, it's like, I don't know that there's one way, especially when we're talking in like the Couch to 50K program. We're not talking about like to be an Olympic level athlete, the way you need to eat. We're just kind of talking about like, if you know, want to get the most out of this program, like you probably want to lay off the processed foods. You probably want to find a healthy diet. And then maybe you want to start to consider some other things like fasting, like how much water you're drinking, when you're eating, and like what you're eating, when. That might be even more important than like, you know, like what you're eating is like when you're eating it. So yeah, man, it's just such a huge topic, and there's a lot. I did, I'll give an example. I did keto, leading up to Ure 100. I was super strict for like 4 months. I had almost no carbs. I think I had like a little slice of birthday cake on my birthday. Really should cut out alcohol, cut out caffeine, cut out sugar. Like, you know, obviously that's in the cutting out the carbs, you have to get rid of the sugar. But for me, it was like not eating any candy. Like you'd be surprised at like how much sugar you can eat if it's just candy and still be under the like sugar limit, you know?
Yeah.
But like cut it all out. Like and I had an incredible performance. I performed really well. It was one of my best runs that I've ever had. It was a ton of work, and I credit a lot of that to like the overhaul of the diet and the discipline of the diet. And then one time I didn't do that, and I actually wasn't even training for a race. So there's other factors, but I had the opportunity to jump into a race. And I was just eating a normal diet. And the night before the race, I ate like a pizza, a Domino's barbecue chicken pizza. And,
got a carb load, right?
Right. Exactly. And I was like, and like for the first 30 miles of the race, that's all I could taste. That's all I could eat. And I was just heavy. And like, there was a lot of factors that led into it, but one of them was my nutrition, and my nutrition was just not right. And I DNF'd, you know,
Yep.
I got to mile 40 and I just couldn't keep going. I didn't want to, and I wasn't in the right place. And, you know, those were two extremes. And just part of the factors that led to it. But like, it's like looking back on it, it's like,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah. Well, I think there is one, we can kind of bottom line it a little bit, which is nice, because we are talking about trying to complete your first ultra marathon.
Right.
We're not trying to do what you did at Ure. We're not trying to win Olympic gold, right? And that's when maybe you do need to get super aggressive and be perfect and pick the diet that aligns with your body chemistry and all those types of things. But just to get there, to get through the training, to get through the race, I think there is a base level of let's be healthy, right? You know, and most people know what that means, at least to a certain degree,
right?
You know, it's not eating pizza the night before your race,
right?
I mean, it could be. Maybe that's what you eat. And
Yeah,
it's a
but you
great,
might
healthy
it's
pizza.
probably like a thin crust margarita, at like 3 p.m. Like
Right.
not a 9 p.m. Domino's like thick crust.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
No, but you are right, and there are some little tips, and these are kind of borderline nutrition fueling things. Like I did mention, cutting out caffeine. I use caffeine as a training tool. Absolutely. Like the more you get into like the depths of your training, the better caffeine's going to work for you in the morning to help you get out the door for the run. But, as they say, caffeine is a hell of a drug.
Sure.
And you cut it out of your life, for like 10 days or so leading up to the race. And then you strategically use it in the race because it's a stimulant, and it will, but you build a tolerance to it. And so you want to get you want to maximize the benefits of that, like use it in training, use it as a tool to help you get through training, but cut it out just before the race. And then, on race morning, right before the race, maybe you're going to have a cup of coffee. And now you're going to like really feel the benefits of that caffeine.
Right.
That's, kind of a little, it's not quite like going full keto, you're not overhauling your whole thing, but it's quite the challenge to stop drinking coffee for 10 days right before your race, so, it's tapping into that, just a little bit. Same thing with alcohol. I mean, alcohol, obviously you're not going to bring it into the race like caffeine as a performance enhancer.
Right.
But cut out alcohol for 3 weeks before the race and you'd be surprised at how good you feel.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at this point, I think it's pretty scientifically based fact that alcohol is basically just poison, right? I mean, it's certainly not good for the body. You're watching us drink beers here in certain episodes, but it's like there's a big difference between going for a run, drinking a beer, and your body being able to metabolize that really quickly. Yeah,
absolutely.
Whereas, a few months ago, sitting on a couch, drinking 2 or 3, watching a movie, you're kind of just doing damage to the body, right? I think that's a really good point. I did want to go back to what you said about the energy level of while you were doing keto. I think that's really important, especially in training too, because there are those times when you haven't prepared your body from a nutrition standpoint,
right,
to do the training that you need to do. I think the more consistent that you can be with the decent, healthy food, especially surrounding the workouts, it's just gonna make it easier to get out the door.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you don't take all the joy out of your life, but like if you're a person that wakes up in the morning and runs, like right when you wake up, like see if you notice the difference between eating dessert and not eating dessert. Just give it a few tries.
Like the night before.
Yeah, like the night before.
Yep.
And like then, maybe just, lay off it for a little bit as you go in, and then, reward yourself after the race,
Right.
It's funny because go back to Ure, man, all I wanted was pancakes. And that run took me 32 hours, that race. And I woke up the next day and the race was still going on. It was like got a 50-hour cutoff. So I woke up and I just got up and I walked into town and I went and I was like, I'm going to get pancakes. This is like the first thing that I did when I woke up. And dude, it messed my stomach up so bad. Like it was crazy how quickly I was like running to the toilet after not eating carbs for like 4 months. And then you having this huge thing and then going and be like, yo, give me like a triple stack of like, pancakes and just syrup all over it,
Absolute bliss for 10 minutes.
Right.
And then pain.
Yeah. And it, I'll take that any day, like that reward, it's not like, eating pancakes is horrible for you. It's just like, we're trying to do something. We're trying to, get ourselves into shape to go run a race, and, delayed gratification, push some of that stuff off a little bit and, give your body like its best chance at getting through this.
Yeah, I think some of it to me goes to prevention as well. You know, that's nutrition is a big part of how we can stay healthy. It's the one thing I'm most scared of during this process is getting really sick or injured and it throwing the whole thing off. And now I'm not even able to race. You can't even toe the line on the day. That comes back to nutrition as well. It comes back to a lot of things, right? But nutrition is really important there. I've noticed myself get sick, especially after races, right? Mm-hmm. You go out and do a really hard effort and then you go celebrate, right? Oh, I'm going to go. Yeah, there's free beer at the finish line. I'll have one of those. Okay. Now they're going to take me out to dinner. I'm going to have a couple more drinks. And next thing you know, on a completely depleted system, you've put in all this stuff that you haven't had in 2 weeks because you're trying to be perfect. And I wake up the next day with the flu or whatever it is. Right. Yeah. And it's like, I've done that more times than I'd like to admit because, because celebrating is fun for sure. Right. Yeah. But I think you track that into the training too, in a smaller way, which rears its head within the specific nutrition, right? If you can do a better job with your nutrition the night before your long run, you're going to have more fun on your long run, right? And you're going to feel better afterwards. I mean, you're probably still beat up afterwards, but that's when we get into recovery, but that's a different episode. Dude, so we'll get there.
Love candy. Like, that's my thing, dude. Running really far, the amount of sugar that your body can just like take down, it's like dangerous how much sugar I feel like I can just eat. And there's a sense of like, well, I'm not fat, so it's not doing anything bad to me. But then I don't know where I heard it or where I saw it, but it's stuck with me, and it's really it's helped me a lot. Because I would always eat a lot of candy after like I ran, or after a long thing. And then I read something like, when you break your body down, you break your muscles down, like, what do you think it gets built back up with? And that's the food that you eat afterwards. And it's like, if I'm just building my muscles with like Mike and Ike's, like, I don't know that that's going to do the trick, And so I did start to like, that helped me kind of consider like, okay, what am I putting into my body, especially in like the recovery sense of like, what are the first things that I'm getting into my body after I work out really hard or after a really long run? Just is that what I'm building my muscles with? Is that what I'm rebuilding my body with? And that, I would rather have like muscles built from like, salad and steak than, Mike and Ike's, no matter how good Mike and Ike's taste.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love it. I think we can baseline that a little bit with, like we're just trying to get through our first one here.
Yep.
Let's be healthy.
Yeah.
Let's avoid the processed stuff and the other things like alcohol. And there's plenty of things out there that are negative.
Right.
But we know what they are. Everyone knows what they are. And especially the closer you get to those longer training blocks and the race, of course, itself, the better we can be, the more fun we're going to have, the better our body's going to feel. Sure. But yeah, I mean, there's still room for cheat days here and there where you can do your thing, and let loose a little bit and reward yourself. I think there's a lot of sanity that goes into that, right?
Yeah.
Like keto and these other really, really stringent diets that are hard to follow, that take a lot of planning and effort. Sometimes you wake up, maybe it's Sunday morning and you don't want to do that for the day. And hopefully you've planned that day and it's at the right moment where it's like, okay, I get to cheat today. I'm going to go eat the pizza. I'm going to drink a beer. I don't have to do a huge workout in the morning, but tomorrow morning I'm going to wake up and get back on that healthy diet so that we can keep pushing forward.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's great advice for people.
Yeah, I like it. Mike, it's one more bit of moderation advice, I think. It's just like, let's keep it even keel. Do the common sense things that make sense. And then we can get into even more tips and tricks, I think, with fueling and recovery when we talk about those. Yeah,
man, you don't want to not enjoy your life just so that you can go out and run for 6 hours. It's not sustainable for most people, right? Like that's, again, we're not training to go to the Olympics here.
Yep.
And not that those people don't enjoy their lives, but like, let's be realistic about what we're doing. And let's try to find a good spot there in the middle that allows us to enjoy our life and be healthy and run.
Sounds great. I like it. All right. Be healthy.
Cheers.
All right. See you next time.
Couch to 50K is an Elevated SoCal project. All rights reserved.